I'd love to know what this diversity role actually involves. It'd be one thing if it's if it's diversity, if by promotion of diversity we mean all types of diversity, and by that I don't just mean making sure that there's ethnic diversity, but I also mean regional diversity. I also mean making sure that some of the accents we hear on national BBC aren't all the same ones, and actually maybe having some diversity of thought, dare I say it, and having some lead presenters who may not necessarily sing of the same hymn sheet when it comes to a lot of the woke stuff we've seen promoted over the last few years. Look, if it was actually that kind of proper diversity and all-encompassing diversity, then okay, we'd still be angry about the money spent on the salary. But if they were smashing the job and doing a great things, then maybe we might find it easier to bear. But I'm pretty sure that's not what's going to happen. It is interesting with Tim Davie because, just recently, actually, myself and a few other Conservative MPs wrote to him about the decision that was made, the censorious decision that was made by the BBC leadership to take a series of vintage comedies off the iPlayer platform, one of which was Little Britain. That was removed from the iPlayer platform. And I wrote a letter with some colleagues to Tim Davie asking for a rationale for why this was. And in fact, if he was so determined to win over my confidence about the BBC, maybe he could, prove that by, putting the Little Britain back on the BBC iPlayer. Of course, and in response, he wasn't prepared to do this at all. The BBC, he's got absolutely, and I think this is another example of the BBC, casting a value judgment on what it's okay or not okay to find funny. And if you find Little Britain and comedies like that funny, then there's something intrinsically wrong with you. So actually, the fact for Little Britain involved all of us laughing at each other. Every single person and group in society was taken the pee out of in that comedy. Every single person, young white men, black men, gay, straight, whatever. We all had the mickey taken out of us. It was British humour. It was hilarious. And you find it funny, I find it funny, but you know what? The Director General thinks there's something wrong with us for finding it funny, and he's going to use our taxpayers' money to cast a value judgment on me and you. That's a centrist decision. So not only are they wasting money, not only are they wasting taxpayers' money, but they are also incredibly politically biased. They promote their own worldview. They do not reflect the views of the diverse country of which we are, diverse in thought and diverse in many other ways. And I think, sadly, I don't take it lightly to come out and say that I want to get rid of a license fee for BBC. I didn't say it lightly. I was romantically, like many others, romantically attached to the history of the BBC, its role, in its foreign service and some of its local productions as well. But sadly, I think it's gone too far. I think it's elements of it are very badly rotten, and I think that we have to look to a future that at the very least moves beyond the license fee, if not looks beyond the BBC full stop.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tom. I'm not for the disintegration of the BBC. I would hate to see the BBC go. I just say you're a fantastic broadcaster. You're full of talented people. Make programs that people want to watch and get income for them. Get advertising, go private, because we don't want to give you the money anymore. And as you quite rightly say, Tom, some of the way they've been behaving lately, actually for a long time now, they don't deserve our money, and frankly Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus are a better service, but to go back to the diversity issue, here's another question. So the BBC says that diversity is so important, they announced this a few months ago, that it's going to be spending is in the process of spending £100 million on instigating its diversity drive, because it says diversity is crucially important. If diversity is so crucially important, why is the person at the BBC in charge of it only a part-timer?
Well, presumably because they're so wonderfully talented, we couldn't possibly pay enough money to secure their services full-time.
I've seen June Sarpong on TV. I don't think she falls into that category.
Right, I suspect you may be right. But what I would say though is they're pro-diversity, but they're pro-diversity when it suits them. Then by pro-diversity, it doesn't seem to me that they're pro genuinely different views being expressed, or pro-diversity of opinion to the extent that you might actually be pro-free speech. I think they're pro their version of diversity and when it suits them. not an all-encompassing version of diversity that I understand it to be. Look, I mean, obviously, we want to see, it's a national broadcaster. We want to see them outreach. We want to make sure that every community in this country is represented through a BBC. Of course, we want that, but we want every group, and we want diversity of thought as well. And we don't want part-timers to be paid £250,000 for a privilege.
I've got to stop you there, Tom. It's £267,000, so it's 17,000 more than £250,000.
More than £250,000. More than £250,000. But maybe this might be a catalyst for a dramatic transformation. And maybe in 3 months' time, we might hear all sorts of different views coming from the BBC. We might hear people who are, pro-Brexit and don't necessarily think Brexit is a disaster.
That'll be the day.
we might be having people say, actually, no, as a BBC employee, I think we should put Little Britain back on the iPlayer platform. We might hear all of this stuff, but you know what? I don't think it's likely. I think this is a huge waste of taxpayers' money. I think it's more evidence that under the current Director General, the BBC hasn't learned its lessons, and sadly is drifting further and further away from a growing number of the public. And I'm very concerned about where this might end. And by that, I mean, we hope the BBC is salvageable. Of course we do. But I don't know if it is. I really don't know if it is.
I think Tim Davie, I think, just call him Tom Daly there. Tim Davie, I think, started encouragingly, but is now, I think, falling short of what we had hoped for him.
I remember, because I sort of, I do think, concerns of the BBC has gone from being like a bit of a minority issue to being a more and more mainstream issue raised by many of my constituents very, very often. But I remember, because I did a poll, I polled my constituents, and there was a majority for getting rid of the licence fee, and also anger at the sort of pensioners having to pay for it now. And I said, I agree. I think we should get rid of the licence fee as well. And then a few weeks later, Tim Davie was appointed. And one of the first things he did was insist that Last Night of the Proms does pay Britannia, and I thought, well, actually, maybe I shot my gun too early. Maybe I'm gonna look like I've acted a bit prematurely, and Tim Davie might sort the situation out. But then, obviously, since then, it's just. I mean, I don't underestimate the difficulty of his job. By the way, I mean, I think if me and you were installed at the BBC as Director General and Chairman of the Trust, I think we'd have our work cut out. And I don't honestly know whether me and you would be able to sort out the BBC, because it employs thousands of people, and the damage goes very deep. And I don't think we'd be able to sort it out. So
I agree. It's become a sort of monolithic super tanker that they cannot change course in midstream. I mean, I agree with you. But really interesting discussion there, Tim, and hopefully you can come on again, Tom, very soon. It's always a pleasure. Tom Hunt, Conservative MP for Ipswich. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and this is Talk Radio.
Online, on DAB, and on the Talk Radio app. Talk